Hi, I'm Howie Rose, and welcome to this edition of One on One, when we chat with one of the more popular New York Mets during the Bobby Valentine years, when Bobby V was the manager here. Always a Bobby Valentine favorite and a Mets fan favorite as well. Benny Agbayani, all the way from Hawaii, back to see you in Queens, and it's great to be with you, Benny.
Oh, it's great to be back.
Why, we're coming up on the 20th anniversary of the 2000 National League champion Mets, the team that lost to the Yankees in the Subway Series in 5 games. Who knows what would have happened in that series had certain things turned out differently in the first game. That's another conversation for another time. But the Mets did get a win in that series, thanks in large part to Benny, who had what proved to be the game-winning hit at Shea Stadium in Game 3. Do you still think about that? And are the memories as vivid today as they were then?
Oh yeah, the memories are just, you just play it back and back, and you just think about that time when I got that hit. It was, it's still awesome.
How far back can you re-rack the tape and recall every minute, every pitch, every bit of the sequence that led up to that big hit?
I can recall it, because I know, I was struggling a little bit off El Duque. And I talked to Tom Robinson, and he was telling me what's wrong. And I said, hey, this pitcher's coming at different angles. I can't even pick it up. He just said, hey, just zone up, and if you see it in your zone, just put the barrel on it. And I did.
Did you see El Duque in one of the regular series, Subway Series confrontations, regular season Subway Series games? Or was that the first look you had?
That was the first look I had at him.
With all of his arm angles, that couldn't have been fun.
Oh yeah, it wasn't fun.
Let's go back a couple of years to when you joined the Mets. You came through the Mets farm system, and the manager of the Mets in 1988 and in 2000, and for a couple of years after that, was Bobby Valentine, clearly one of the best managers in New York Mets history, to be sure. You were clearly a favorite of his. How far back before you got to the big leagues did that go?
I think it was in 97 or 98. He was the manager in AAA in Norfolk Tides, and then he got called up to take over. I think just playing with him that year, I kind of, I think it was, it was 96, I think?
Yeah, he came here in 96,
yeah,
late
96.
Right.
So he was there in Tidewater in 96 for part of the time. And, he got called up and took over the big league job. And, he just kind of told me, just buy your time and keep hitting and keep plugging away. And, hopefully I get a call up.
But he clearly liked you. There were certain players that Bobby had who might not have necessarily projected as stars, but Bobby saw the intrinsic value in those players and the way they could make significant contributions in the big leagues. You were one of them. Matt Franco clearly was another. Who else do you remember being on that sort of list of Bobby's guys who made it to some pretty good extent in the major leagues?
There was a bunch of guys that he kind of took care of and, trusted in. And, when he gave us our chance, we did our job.
Bobby could be not only an interesting guy, but the best way to put it was that he was a contrarian. If you said A, Bobby might say B. And it can be tough to have conversations sometimes like that. He always knew exactly what he was talking about and where he was coming from. But were you able to connect with him in that fashion? Did you enjoy a conversation with Bobby that could branch off into a lot of different directions?
Yeah, I did. He was really analytical. And I think he was always thinking of what's going to happen later in the game, not what's happening now. He always had a plan, and I guess, he stuck to his plan, and, he was very successful with that. I think, he got into our heads, a lot of the players that he liked, and I think, he gave us the confidence that we needed, and I think that's why we performed well.
And why did you connect with him? Why did you become one of his favorites?
I wanted to learn, I wanted to get better, and, I just kind of told him that I just need a shot. And, he kind of basically told me what I needed to do. And I guess, I did what I needed to do in the minor leagues, and then I got my shot. But when I got there, he was like, well, you got your shot now, so try to maintain it.
Yeah, well, you sure did. I mean, you kind of came up with a bang. I know you came up for a spell in 98. But in 1999, you come up, and you're hitting home runs just about every day for the first little while in the big leagues. Did you start to think, hey, this is easy?
Yeah, you kind of think it's easy, but then you kind of think, hey, you better pinch yourself. It's going to come back to reality. But I think when I got here, it was like more I could study the pitchers. I knew who the pitchers was, and, it got kind of easier because I started learning the game more.
That was such a fun team. 99, 2000, you had a lot of talent. You had a few characters, but you had character as a group too. What was it to you that made that team special?
I think we had a bunch of veteran players, a bunch of younger players, so it kind of mixed a little, and I think the older players took care of the younger players and try to drive us in the right way. And I think just having just that unity in the clubhouse and everyone got along, and when we got on the field, everybody just left everything on the field.
The base hit we talked about a little while ago that ultimately won Game 3 of the World Series was huge. It wasn't a walk-off, as the kids call them today, but you did hit a walk-off before the World Series in the Division Series, which I just referenced, against Aaron Foltz. In some ways, was that a bigger thrill than the hit you got in the World Series? Because the one you got in the Division Series ended the game, and there you are getting smothered at home plate in the celebration afterwards.
Yeah, that was so exciting. I mean, we're just in the dugout, like, we're just thinking, somebody just hit the ball out, let's end this. And, I was like, okay, I'm coming up, I'm going to try to do this. And
so your only thought then was hit one out of the ballpark and let's get out of here.
Yep. I just wanted to end it and let's go home. Let's get that W and let's get out of here. And, fortunately, I got a good pitch and I hit it out. And when I was running around the bases, it was like I didn't hear nothing. And I came around third, and then I saw my teammates, and it was just like a blank stare, like I was so excited. And then, it's like I couldn't believe it, because after that I got picked up and, carried off. Then I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on?
The year before, in 1999, Todd Pratt hit the walk-off that won the Division Series against the Arizona Diamondbacks, and you saw him treated very similarly. Were you thinking about that as you ran the bases? And even after the home run that Pratt hit for that whole year, were you dreaming of a moment like that yourself that you ultimately realized?
No, I wasn't really dreaming of that. I just was like more excited that, wow, we won. We won this game. We're going on. We're moving on.
And so you did. You go to the World Series, and yet there's another play that you're remembered for, and all I've got to do is allude to it, and I know it's going to elicit a laugh, a smile, and most of you probably know where I'm going already, but it was a fly ball that you caught thinking it was the third out, presented it to a young fan on your way back to the dugout. Take it from there.
Well, I was on my knees and I looked at the scoreboard, and, I thought I saw 2 outs, but I didn't, it was the count. And then when I caught the ball, I just kind of nonchalant threw it to left field, and I was like, wait, I think it's only 2 outs, not 3 outs. And I went over there, I grabbed it, and I threw it back in, but it was too late already. And, I was like, oh my gosh, I just screwed up, man. What's going to happen now? And, I was like, oh my gosh, it was an important game for us too. And, I'm glad Hampton got that hit that put us on top.
Yeah, so you end up winning the game, which makes it a humorous footnote. I mean, it might have been something much different had that, because 2 runs scored on that play based on the rule. And that could have taken on a whole different meaning over the years. But once you won the game and it became fodder for fun, if you will, tell us as best you can what some of your teammates might have had to say, or perhaps might have done to help sort of celebrate the moment, if you would.
We were celebrating, and Bobby called me into his office and he goes, Benny, in the States, we count 1, 2, 3. I don't know how you Hawaiian guys count it, but, I started like, oh, Skip, come on now. And everybody, all the guys on the team were like, oh my gosh, I don't know how you Hawaiians count out there in Hawaii. It was funny, but at that moment it wasn't funny. But, I just get a kick out of it every time, because I know, when my son sees it, he always reminds me, and he always tells me, Dad, why did you throw the ball in there? It was only 2 outs. And I go, okay, that's it, son.
Oh, so what do they talk about with you more? The hit in the World Series, the home run in the Division Series, or that play?
He brings that play most often. And then there was another play in Japan where I body slammed the catcher because they threw at me, and he brings that up too. He doesn't bring up the home runs I hit. He brings up all the other stuff that, comes to his head.
We're going to talk about that body slam in a minute, because I didn't know about that. This sounds interesting. But that was vintage Bobby V, the way he reacted. I can't imagine a way you could probably clean it up, because I don't even know what he said, but I just know we're talking about Johnny. John Franco, he must have had a party with that.
Oh yeah, he did too. And the Rawlings rep Stevie Cohen, he said, hey, you know what? We'll have the first Hawaiian glove. We have a ticker so you can tick it, so you know how many outs there are in the outfield. And I just said, all right, guys.
Do you get a kick that that's as much a part of what people remember about you as all the good stuff?
Yeah.
So you wear that proudly somewhat.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not the only one who did it, but
Right.
I know, I mean, I'm playing in New York. I'm on that big stage. I mean, everybody's going to remember that play, especially the Giants fans. But, I know when I run into some of those Giant fans in Hawaii, they remember that home run that killed them, over here off Aaron Foltz. So.
All right, so you did play not only in Japan, but you played for Bobby Valentine in Japan, continuing that great connection you guys had. But you brought it up. Tell me about body slamming the catcher.
It was one of those games, that we're called gaijins, so the American players. So,
What are you called?
The gaijins.
Gaijins?
Yeah, so
Okay.
they're American players. We're, the American players, that's what we were called. But, they brought in a pitcher. So the guy before me, he hits a grand slam, and he was a Japanese player. And I'm like, okay. But they don't show on the video, they hit the two guys before me. They were American players. They hit them. So I'm like, okay, this guy's, he hit the grand slam. Okay, so we're coming up the next round. And I'm like, okay, so why aren't they going to hit this guy instead of, so they didn't hit him, so he went to first base. And then, so it came up to me. The guy throws a ball right at my head, right under my chin. I'm like, okay, I looked at him. I said, all right. And, he threw it again inside. I was like, I turned around, I yelled at Bobby, I said, if this guy, he better hit me. If he wants to hit me, he better hit me. So he drilled me right in the ribs. And, that was, I was 30 something already. And I was like, and the catcher comes up to me right in front of my face. I don't know what he said. I just picked him up and I threw him over. And he was out for 6 months, but, I guess in the report, it said that he was saying, oh, sorry. But I mean, he jumped up right in my face. So what I said, I'm too old to go run out to that mound. I'm going to get the first person that comes at my face. So he came at my face, and then, that's what I did.
Was it difficult playing in Japan if you did not, I don't know, maybe you got to know the language pretty well or spoke it even fluently, but was it difficult playing in Japan as an American-born player?
Yeah, it was because, the Japanese players, they looked at you, you had to prove yourself to them. And, they knew I played for the New York Mets and, they know I was a major league player, but, they wanted to see us make sure we could hit that pitching. I mean, Matt Franco was there too with us too, with me. And, we kind of proved ourselves out there our first year. And I think, that was the great part of it. I mean, trying to get the respect from the Japanese players.
Was Bobby then, as he, I'm told, is now, considered a legend in Japan?
Oh, he's like Elvis Presley.
Really?
I mean, we would travel, and I mean, there was so much people. I mean, we needed bodyguards. I mean, we would just, we would get off the train and we would just leave because everybody went to Bobby.
So in spite of the language barrier and how they treated some of the American-born players, was it fun, the experience in Japan?
Yeah, it was really fun. I mean, we're the first.
You were there a few years too,
Yeah,
right?
6 years. And I think a lot of the players wanted to play with us because Bobby ran it more of American-style spring training because they're known to have long spring trainings in Japan, long hours. And I think for us, we're like in and we're out and, we're just, having a blast.
Did you like the game in Japan? How would you equate it with the quality of Major League Baseball?
We liked the game. You just had to understand how they pitched you. I mean, it was amazing because they would have the bases loaded and they would face one of us and they would walk us. And we were like, what is going on here? They said, oh, we don't want, you guys to beat us. We'll just let the other guy beat us. And it was kind of amazing.
Well, you played for a team that's known as amazing, the Mets, and you got to experience the World Series. You got to experience all of New York, and fans here remember you very fondly. So it's great seeing you again, Benny.
Yeah, it's great to be back here. I mean, it gives me goosebumps.
Said it almost 20 years ago. We'll say it again. World Series hero, Benny Agbayani, our guest on One on One. I'm Howie Rose. We'll see you next time.